Imagine this for a second. You're packed shoulder to shoulder in by a landing craft, waves slamming the sides, and the only thing louder than the engine is your heartbeat. The ramp in front of you is about to drop, and you already know what's waiting on the other side. Most of us have heard about D-Day, but almost nobody actually knows what it felt like, minute by minute, to be one of the soldiers who had to storm Omaha Beach under the deadliest conditions of the entire invasion. And honestly, the reality is way more intense than the clean, heroic version we usually picture. This wasn't a smooth operation. It was chaos, fear, confusion, and courage all colliding in a single morning. But here's the thing. This video isn't a distant history lesson. We're going right into the shoes of one soldier. We're walking with him through every moment, from the first icy wave hitting the landing craft to the desperate crawl across the sand. Everything you'll hear is grounded in real timelines, real reports, and real experiences from that day. So if you've ever wondered what D-Day actually looked like from ground level, stick around. Because once that ramp drops, there's no turning back. Let's get into it. The ocean is the first thing you feel. Not the view, just the cold. And it cuts straight through your uniform as the landing craft smashes down another wave. You're packed in so tightly you can't even lift your arms, and everyone's boots are sloshing in the inch of seawater on the metal floor. For a second, it's quiet, just the engine humming and the boat rocking. Then, crack! A bullet snaps past the front ramp. Another one slams into the steel wall beside you, ringing like someone hit a giant metal bell. Nobody has to say it out loud. You've arrived. A voice at the front tries to shout something, an order maybe, but the wind in the engine swallow half the words. Guys instinctively lower their heads, gripping their rifles like they're suddenly made of glass. Someone mutters a prayer, someone else tries to breathe slowly, but you can literally hear his breath shaking. And then you notice it. The air. It smells like salt, diesel, and something burning. You don't even know where the smoke is coming from yet, but it's already drifting over the water in long, dark streaks. Another shell hits the water nearby. The entire boat jumps like it was kicked from below. A few guys stumble sideways. One loses his helmet and scrambles to catch it before it rolls into the bilge water. You still can't see the beach, just palm. Smoke flashes in the distance, but the closer you get, the louder everything becomes. Machine guns rattling so fast it doesn't even sound like individual shots anymore. Explosions echoing off the cliffs ahead, the unmistakable thump of artillery landing somewhere, too close to think about. Then finally over the noise the coxswain yells, 30 seconds! And that's when reality really hits you. This is it. There's no turning back. The ramp is about to drop, and whatever waits outside, bullets, mines, chaos, you're stepping straight into it. Your grip tightens on your rifle. You take one last breath, and the ramp begins to fall. All right, before we go any further, let's get one thing straight. Today, we're not just talking about D-Day. We're not watching it from a distance or flipping through some dusty textbook version of events. We're doing something way more real than that. We're walking through this day minute by minute, through the eyes of one soldier who actually had to live it. Think of him as a mix of the hundreds of testimonies, journals, and military reports from June 6, 1944. Not a superhero, not the perfect movie version, just an ordinary young guy thrown into the most dangerous morning of World War II. You're going to see exactly what he sees, hear what he hears, feel the confusion, the fear, the tiny flashes of hope, everything that made this day so unbelievably intense for the people on the ground. And trust me, the real story is way more chaotic and human than the polished versions we usually hear. This wasn't some smooth, perfectly timed operation. Boats were scattered everywhere. Units were mixed up. Half the plans fell apart the moment the first shot was fired. And yet, they push forward anyway. Over the next few minutes, we'll go from the landing craft, where the fear first hits, to the open water, to the killing zone on Omaha Beach, and then up into the cliffs where the entire mission could have collapsed if not for a few insanely brave decisions. Everything you're about to hear is pieced together from actual reports and timelines from D-Day. how long certain units were under fire, what conditions were like, where they were positioned, what obstacles they faced, and how they somehow kept moving forward even when everything around them was falling apart. So if you have ever wanted to know what D-Day actually looked like, not from a bird's eye view, but from the ground, step by step, stick with me. Because once we follow this soldier off that ramp, the story gets even more intense. Let's dive in. Before that landing craft ever hits the water, before the case, the gunfire, the shouting, there's a whole world moving in the dark. It's early morning on June 6th, 1944. Not sunrise, not even close. We're talking pitch black, cold, quiet. The kind of quiet that only happens right before something massive is about to begin. Across the English Channel, thousands, and I mean thousands of soldiers are getting ready. Picture an entire city's worth of people packing up at the same time over 156,000 Allied troops, more than 5,000 ships, hundreds of planes already in the sky dropping paratroopers miles behind enemy lines. Every single one of them is part of the biggest coordinated military operation the world has ever seen. Operation Overlord. That's the official name. But for the guys on the ground, it's just the invasion. Our soldier, the one we're following, is part of the force heading for Omaha Beach, one of 5 landing zones the Allies plan to hit. The others are Utah, Gold, Juno, and Sword. But Omaha is the problem child, the toughest one. The beach with cliffs, bunkers, and German defenders dug in so deep you'd think they were welded into the hill. And here's the thing most people don't realize. The planning for this day took years: maps, fake radio signals, decoy armies, intelligence missions, rehearsals. The Allies spent forever preparing for it. But no matter how perfect the strategy looked on paper, once the operation started, everything had to work in real time. And the Germans weren't clueless. They knew an invasion was coming. They just didn't know exactly where or when. They had fortified the coast with what they called the Atlantic Wall, a long chain of defenses designed to shred anyone who tried to land. So picture this. All night long, soldiers are moving in silence. Commanders checking last-minute weather reports. Navy crews loading boats. Pilots double-checking flight paths. The channel winds shifting back and forth, deciding the fate of thousands. Meanwhile, our soldier is probably not thinking about strategy or politics or the grand plan. He's thinking about the basics. Is my gear ready? Is my rifle clean? Will the weather hold? And honestly, will I make it? Because by dawn, this calm darkness is going to explode into the most chaotic morning of the entire war. But for now, right now, it's just the hum of engines warming up, the smell of fuel in the air, and the quiet knowledge that once the order comes, there's no turning back. And with that, the clock starts ticking. Our soldier is about to step into the first minute of D-Day. 5 a.m. hits, and the entire coastline of England suddenly feels like it's waking up. Engines rumble, boots shuffle on metal ramps, and officers are doing those final shouted checks that sound way more confident than they probably feel. Our soldier takes a deep breath, one of those long ones you take when you know the next few hours are about to change everything, and steps forward toward the Higgins boat, the small, boxy landing craft that's about to carry him straight into history. Now, if you've never seen one of these things up close, imagine a metal shoebox with an engine strapped to the back. No seats, no comfort, just steel walls, a wooden floor slick with seawater, and a big front ramp that will eventually drop open like a giant trap door. That's your ride. As he climbs down the ramp into the boat, the first thing he notices is the smell. Diesel fuel, damp ropes, wet metal, and the ocean mixed together into this weird, sharp scent that sticks in your nose, the kind you never forget once you've smelled it. The men are shoulder to shoulder already. Some are clutching their rifles like they're anchors. Others stare straight ahead, not saying a word, just trying to hold the nerves down. Seasickness is already hitting a few of them, and the boat hasn't even left the ship yet. One guy wipes his mouth with the back of his sleeve, pretending he's fine, he's not. And that's the part people don't talk about. How human all this felt. Nobody here is thinking about maps or strategy or what a giant operation and they're a small piece of. They're thinking about simple things. Is my gear strapped on right? Did I load my rifle correctly? How cold is the water going to be? Once everyone's packed in tight, the boat crew yanks the ropes free, the engine growls louder, and the landing craft begins to drift away from the transport ship. It's slow at first, like the ocean is deciding whether or not to let them go. Then the engine kicks harder, and the craft starts bobbing over the waves toward the rest of the invasion fleet. And that sight right there, the one our soldier sees, is something we almost never imagine. Everywhere he looks, boats, hundreds of them, stretching in lines so long they disappear into the early morning fog. It feels like watching an entire steel city move across the water. But with every wave the boat hits, you can sense the tension rising. The sea is rough today, rough enough that more guys start leaning over the side. Some are seasick from nerves, some from the actual waves, and most from both. Our soldier tries to steady himself with one hand on the steel wall. He can feel the vibration of the engine through his palm. It's like the whole boat has a heartbeat. There's no turning back now, no last-minute changes. They're committed. Off in the distance, he can already faintly hear the rumble of naval guns firing. Big guns miles away, pounding the shoreline they're heading toward. It's a soft, distant thud for now, but soon it won't be distant at all. This is the moment where time feels weird. The trip is only supposed to take a short while, but every minute feels stretched out, like the world is holding its breath along with the men inside the boat. Somewhere above all this noise, a voice finally calls out from the crew. "Hold on, we're heading in." And just like that, the real journey begins, straight toward Omaha Beach. By 6:20 a.m., the landing craft has been bouncing over the waves long enough that the men have stopped trying to stay dry. Every few seconds, cold seawater splashes over the sides, soaking uniforms, stinging faces, and making every piece of gear feel twice as heavy as it should. The boat crew suddenly shouts over the engine, "We're getting close, heads down." And that's when things change. Up to this point, everything felt distant. Naval guns, far-off flashes, the muffled thunder of explosions miles away. But now the war is right in front of you. The first sign is the sound. Not one sound, layers of them. Machine guns rattling so fast they blur together. Artillery booming from the cliffs. Mortar shells whistling overhead and landing somewhere way too close. Even from inside the boat, you can feel the vibrations through your chest. Our soldier lifts his head just enough to peer out the small slit near the front of the craft. And for the first time, he sees it. Omaha Beach. Well, not the beach exactly. More like a massive wall of smoke, sand, and chaos. Through the haze, the silhouettes of German fortifications appear. Dark shapes dug into the cliffs, firing nonstop. Little flashes light up the ridgeline every second. It's like the entire hillside is alive and angry. The boat suddenly jerks sideways hard. A shell lands in the water nearby, sending a huge column of spray into the air. Men instinctively duck, gripping their helmets and hunching over as the craft rocks violently. Someone near the back loses balance and falls onto another soldier. But nobody reacts. They're too focused on what's waiting for them out there. Another boat nearby isn't so lucky. A mortar strikes close enough to flip it sideways, sending men into the water. You can see helmets and rifles floating as the surf pulls them under. It's the kind of sight that snaps everything into reality real fast. Inside our soldier's boat, the tension is almost physical, like the air itself has weight. Nobody talks. Nobody asks questions. Everyone already knows what the next few minutes are going to look like. The coxswain yells again, louder this time. 30 seconds! These words hit harder now than they ever have. 30 seconds until the ramp goes down. 30 seconds until they leave the relative safety of this steel box and step into open water under machine gun fire aimed directly at them. Our soldier wipes his face with a wet sleeve, trying to clear the salt and spray from his eyes. He checks his rifle again, just out of instinct, and tightens the straps on his pack. The boat is shaking so much now that the metal sides rattle like loose armor. More bullets slam into the front plating, sending sparks across the floor. Each hit feels like someone swung a hammer at the hull. The beach is close enough now that the men can see shapes moving. Allied troops already struggling in the water, bodies floating, explosions kicking up huge fountains of sand. The reality is crystal clear. This is not going to be a clean landing. This is not going to go according to plan. This is survival. The officer near the front turns around, raises his hand, and shouts the last instruction they'll hear before stepping into hell. When the ramp drops, go! And just like that, those final seconds begin ticking down. The ramp is about to drop, and the real nightmare is about to start. By 6:30 a.m., time seems to slow down. The landing craft is rocking harder now, slamming against the waves like it's warning you about what's coming. The air feels heavier, almost electric, like the world is holding its breath. And then the coxswain shouts the words nobody forgets. 30 seconds. You can feel every man in that boat tighten up, like a single muscle. Nobody's talking now. It's just the roar of engines, the whistle of incoming fire, and the pounding in your chest. Water is splashing over the sides, mixing with sweat, fear, adrenaline, all the stuff people don't write in history books. Then, boom! A shell lands close. The whole craft shakes. Someone stumbles. Someone swears under their breath. And someone else just grips their rifle tighter. Because what else can you do? 10 seconds left. You see the front of the boat, that steel ramp, streaked with rust, dented by other battles, and you realize, in a few moments, that thin piece of metal is the only thing standing between you and a storm of bullets. And then it happens. The ramp slams down, and it's like the world erupts. Machine guns open up instantly, loud, brutal, unrelenting. The sound isn't just noise, it's a physical force. Sand jumps like popcorn under the impact. Water explodes in tiny geysers around the men stepping off. You see the beach ahead, but it doesn't look like a beach. It looks like chaos, smoke, barbed wire, barricades, bodies, fire everywhere. Some men jump into the water because staying in the boat is suicide. Others trip because the waves are higher than they thought, or their packs are too heavy. The moment they hit the water, it's like ice, grabbing onto their uniforms and dragging them down. You try to move, but the sea pulls at your legs. The weight of your gear drags on your shoulders. The noise is insane. Artillery pounding from the cliffs, MG-42s ripping through the surf, orders being shouted and lost in the hurricane of sound. You push forward anyway, because that's the only direction that exists now. Some soldiers don't make it 10 steps. Others keep moving, crouching low, racing toward whatever tiny scrap of cover they can find. There's no real plan anymore, just survival, just movement, just sheer force of will. The moment the ramp drops, you understand exactly why Omaha Beach becomes the stuff of legend. This isn't strategy, this isn't glory. This is raw, terrifying courage lived second by second. But even in the middle of all that, something powerful happens. You see men helping each other up, pulling buddies out of the water, shouting encouragement through the smoke. The kind of teamwork that isn't taught. It's born in moments like these. And step by step, inch by inch, through fear that would crush most people, they push forward. Because turning back isn't an option. And 6:30 a.m. at Omaha Beach becomes one of the most defining moments of the 20th century, not because of generals or plans, but because ordinary young men did the impossible. So now the ramp is down, the first men have hit the water, and you're right there in the thick of it. The moment you step forward, it's like the ocean personally decides to fight you. The water is freezing, not the kind of cold that just makes you shiver, but the kind that steals your breath for a second. It hits your chest, your shoulders, and suddenly your whole body feels twice as heavy. And on top of that, you've got nearly 70 pounds of gear strapped to you. Helmet, rifle, ammo, pack. The whole thing feels like someone tied an anchor around your waist. And yet somehow, you keep moving. Because everyone else around you is doing the same. Bullets are slapping into the water, making these sharp little splashes right next to you. It's crazy how something so deadly can look so small when it hits the surface, like it's mocking you. The machine guns up on the bluffs are firing so fast it sounds like someone unzipping the sky. Every few seconds, someone yells, "Go! Keep moving! Move, move, move!" But the water doesn't care how fast you want to go. It pulls you back. It grabs your legs. It tries to drag you under. And still, one foot after the other, you push through it. You see guys around you struggling, trying to stay upright. Some step into deeper pockets of water, and suddenly they're gone under the surface for a moment. Others ditch their pack to stay afloat. And a few don't come back up at all. This is the part of D-Day that almost no movie gets exactly right. Because this isn't the dramatic fireworks or heroic charges. This is the slow, grinding, painful crawl through freezing water while every instinct in your body is yelling at you to stop, to hide, to turn back. But these soldiers don't. They keep pushing toward land that looks so close yet feels so far away. Around 6:40 a.m., the tide starts turning, literally. The rising water lifts debris from earlier waves, shattered boats, broken pieces of equipment, and all of it starts drifting toward you. You're dodging bullets and floating wreckage at the same time. Then someone ahead shouts, "Mine, mines!" And yeah, that's when you notice them. Thin wooden poles stuck into the surf with explosives attached. They call them Rommel's asparagus. You zigzag between them because one wrong step isn't just dangerous, it's game over. Still, you keep going. By 6:50 a.m., you finally feel the sand beneath your feet as the water gets shallower. And you swear, even with all the chaos around you, that little shift from deep water to solid ground feels like a tiny spark of hope. But don't get it twisted. The danger isn't over. You're still exposed, still getting shot at, still soaking wet and exhausted. Yet something shifts right here. This is when men start to speed up. They start pulling others along and they start shouting again, not in fear, but in determination. Because the beach is right there, because the mission is right there, and because despite everything trying to kill them, I'm on my Monday. They're still moving forward, and by 7 a.m., a handful of soldiers finally reach the first line of obstacles on the beach: hedgehogs, check crossbars, tangled metal, and collapse behind them, gasping for air, drenched, shaking, but alive. That's the miracle of this half hour. They were supposed to die in that water. Many did, but enough kept going that the mission could continue. And you watch them, these young men, soaked and freezing and terrified, still crawling forward as if the fate of the world is on their shoulders. Because on that morning, it really was. All right, so you've made it through the water. You're soaked, exhausted, shaking, and completely exposed. And now you're basically on this giant stretch of open sand that feels like it goes on forever. There's no cover, no trenches, no buildings, just you, the beach, and a wall of German fire coming down from the cliffs. And right up ahead, that's the only hope you've got. A ridge of small rocks and pebbles called the shingle line. Doesn't sound like much, right? But out here, it's the difference between life and death. Behind that little rise, you can finally get low enough to catch your breath and regroup. So you start moving toward it, crawling, sprinting, ducking, whatever your body can manage. Bullets are still kicking up sand around you, and every explosion feels like it's right next to your skull. You can hear guys yelling for medics. You can hear officers trying to shout orders. But honestly, it's all blending into this chaotic, roaring mess. It's like standing next to a jet engine made of gunfire. Around 7:05 a.m., more landing craft are dropping soldiers onto the beach. And you can see the exact same panic in their eyes that you had just minutes earlier, when you were fighting through the water. They're diving behind tank obstacles, behind steel hedgehogs, behind anything that looks like it might stop a bullet. And slowly, painfully slowly, you and the men around you inch your way up the beach. Some soldiers crawl on their elbows. Some sprint a few yards, drop, then sprint again. Some roll, some drag themselves. Some literally bury their faces in the sand as explosions go off behind them. It's pure survival mode. By 7:10 a.m., you're close enough that the shingle line doesn't just look like safety. It looks like salvation. A couple more meters, just a little more. But these last few meters are the worst because the Germans can see everyone funneled in the same direction. Machine guns swing their barrels over. Mortars adjust their aim. And all you can think is, just get there. Just get to that ridge. When you finally slide behind it, around 7:15 a.m., it feels like someone just turned the world's volume down by 30%. You can still hear gunfire, but it's not ripping past your head anymore. You drop to your knees, you're panting. Your gear feels like it's glued to your body. Sand is everywhere, in your mouth, clinging to your wet uniform, grinding under your helmet. All around you, soldiers are collapsing into the rocks. Some immediately start checking their weapons. Some just lay there, staring at the sky, trying to catch their breath. Others are bandaging wounds, either their own or a buddy's. But here's the crazy part. This isn't the finish line. It's the starting point. While you and the others were trying to pull yourselves together, officers are crawling up and down the line yelling, "We've got to get off this beach, and we need to move inland." But the men are pinned because stepping out from behind this ridge means stepping right back into the open kill zone. At 7:30 a.m., combat engineers show up. These are the guys who get stuff done under the worst conditions. They're carrying explosives, wire cutters, tools, basically enough gear to build or blow up anything. Their job? Clear out the beach obstacles, the mines, the steel traps, the wooden stakes, so tanks and reinforcements can get through. These guys crawl forward with their satchel charges, planting them at the base of obstacles while bullets crack inches above their helmets. They detonate the first charges around 7:40 a.m., sending huge plumes of sand and metal flying into the air. Every time one of those explosions goes off, soldiers behind the shingle line cheer because it means one thing. We're creating a path. We're not stuck here forever. Meanwhile, medics are moving between the wounded, dragging them back behind the shingle, doing everything they can with the tiny amount of supplies they carried in. And throughout all of this, the tide is rising. And that's a whole new problem. By 7:50 a.m., the water creeps closer, swallowing abandoned gear and pushing debris right up against the shingle line. If the tide keeps rising, and it will, the beach will narrow, and everyone pinned down is going to have even less space to survive. The pressure is on. So right before 8 a.m., you hear it, a voice cutting through the chaos. "On your feet! We move on my signal!" And suddenly the shingle line isn't just a hiding spot, it's a launching point. Because the real fight, the one up the cliffs, in the trenches, in the bunkers, that's still ahead. But the miracle is this: you made it this far, and you're not done, not even close. By 8 a.m., the beach has transformed from a deadly gauntlet into a battlefield that's still terrifying, but at least offers tiny scraps of hope. You've made it past the shingle line, but you're not safe yet. In fact, most would say this is where the real struggle begins. The first thing you notice is the obstacles, the wooden stakes, metal hedgehogs, mines, and tangled barbed wire that the Germans called Rommel's asparagus. They're scattered across the sand, some partially buried, some sticking up like jagged teeth. Each one could slow you down, trip you, or worse, set off a hidden explosive. Engineers and demolition squads are moving forward, crawling through the case, clearing the way with explosives and tools. You can hear the small boom of charges going off, sending sand, wood, and metal flying. Every explosion is a signal. A path is opening. Keep moving. Soldiers are screaming encouragement, pulling wounded men out of the way, and firing at German positions as they advance. You, our soldier, take a deep breath and move. One foot, then the next. Step by step. The tide is still pushing in, water sucking at your boots and trying to pull you back. But your eyes are on the cliffs ahead. That's where the Germans are, firing down from reinforced bunkers and trenches, waiting for anyone foolish enough to show themselves. By 8:15 a.m., tanks and armored vehicles finally arrive on the beach. Some have been damaged in the surf, but the ones that make it start pounding the German fortifications with their cannons. The deafening sound echoes through the cliffs and gives soldiers like you the courage to push forward. It's not perfect protection, the bullets still fly, but it's a little relief, a little leverage. At this point, the battle becomes small unit combat. You see groups of men flanking bunkers, crawling into shallow trenches, tossing grenades. Each tiny success is critical. Every bunker cleared means a few more yards of safety, a few more lives saved, It's not glamorous. There's no fanfare, just sheer determination and raw bravery. And while all this is happening, medics are everywhere, weaving between men, dragging the wounded behind makeshift cover, giving first aid in the open, ignoring the constant gunfire. Their courage is quiet but essential. Without them, the casualty numbers would have been far worse. By 8:45 a.m., the first footholds on the cliffs are being established. Soldiers are climbing ropes, ladders, anything they can find, pulling themselves up under fire. The Germans are still shooting, still trying to push everyone back, but the tide of men and determination is relentless. Around 8:55 a.m., you finally start feeling it. The shift. The beach isn't completely secure yet, but the worst choke points are opening up. Obstacles cleared, enemy fire less concentrated. The first patches of cover beyond the shingle line give soldiers a chance to regroup and prepare for the next push. It's exhausting, terrifying, and chaotic, but also remarkable. Ordinary men, drenched and trembling, are breaking through defenses designed to stop them completely. One small step at a time, they're proving that courage and persistence can move mountains, or at least climb them under impossible odds. By 9 a.m., the beach is no longer just a death trap. It's a hard-fought pathway inland, a bridge from survival to action. The soldiers who made it this far have not only endured, they've set the stage for the rest of the operation. And while the cliffs above still hold danger, for the first time since the landing craft dropped, there's a sense of momentum. Because that's what D-Day really comes down to. 1 minute at a time, one step at a time, pushing forward when everything is trying to hold you back. By 9 a.m., the beach is behind you, but the fight is far from over. The shingle line and cleared obstacles gave you a foothold, but now you're staring up at the cliffs above, sheer walls of cast-owned rock and fortified German bunkers. And every inch of those heights is defended. Every machine gun, every rifle, every sniper is waiting for anyone foolish enough to try climbing up. Your legs are shaking from the chaos in the water and the pounding on the beach. Your uniform is soaked, your boots heavy with sand and water, your hands raw from gripping your rifle and dragging yourself over jagged debris. And yet, there's no stopping now. Not if you want to survive, not if you want to help win the day. Soldiers start forming small groups, picking the safest paths up the slopes. Engineers set charges on obstacles and rocks to create makeshift cover. Grenades whistle through the air, exploding in clouds of dust and sand that give fleeting moments of cover. Every man is hyper-focused. Look for cover, move fast, shoot when necessary, help your buddy if he falls. Around 9:30 a.m., the first men start climbing the cliffs. They use ropes, ladders, and whatever scrap of terrain gives a grip. Bullets scream past, smashing into rocks around them. Mortar rounds shake the ground under your feet. And yet, inch by inch, they're moving upward. Some fall back, others push harder, dragging wounded comrades with them. You realize something here. Bravery isn't just fearlessness. It's moving forward while shaking, while scared, while tired to the point of collapse. At 10 a.m., the first bunkers on the bluff are being attacked. Soldiers crawl up into foxholes, toss grenades, suppress enemy positions, and slowly push the defenders back. It's like watching a dance in chaos, coordinated, precise, and incredibly risky. One mistake, one misstep, could mean being cut down instantly, and still, ordinary men do extraordinary things. By 10:30 a.m., small groups have made it to the top of some sections. They wave for reinforcements, shout instructions, and start setting up defensive positions so that more men can climb safely. Engineers are still cutting through barbed wire, blowing up stakes, and clearing paths under constant fire. Every explosion, every shout, every bullet is part of a rhythm that keeps the advance moving, step by dangerous step. And here's the thing that's almost impossible to put into words. It's chaotic, terrifying, and messy, but it's also unbelievably human. You see men helping each other, covering friends, giving water, shouting encouragement, sharing ammo, dragging the wounded. It's not glory. It's survival and teamwork in its rawest form. By 11 a.m., the first real stretch of the heights is secured. Not all of it, but enough that the momentum has shifted. The beach is no longer the only thing in the fight. Soldiers who were drowning in fear a few hours ago are now holding high ground, firing down at positions that once had them pinned. Reinforcements are arriving steadily, and engineers continue to clear paths for armor to move forward. It's slow, it's brutal, it's exhausting, but it's progress. And on D-Day, progress is everything. Because this moment, these hours from 9 to 11, aren't just about taking land. They're about proving that determination, courage, and teamwork can overcome almost anything. The beach might have nearly killed you. The water might have tried to pull you under. But the heights, they're being won, and that victory, one terrifying, sweaty, bullet-riddled step at a time, is what allows the Allies to finally start pushing inland. By noon, the chaos of the morning has finally started to settle, but it's not calm, not by a long shot. The beach is behind you, the shingle line is taken, and the heights are in Allied hands. The first major objectives of Omaha Beach are finally achieved, but achieving them has come at a staggering cost. Look around and it hits you. Bodies, abandoned gear, destroyed landing craft, craters in the sand from mortar and artillery shells. It's a grim reminder of what this victory cost. Men you saw stepping off the landing craft just a few hours ago aren't standing now. Some were never even given the chance to reach the water's edge. The ones who made it are drenched, exhausted, and carrying the physical and mental scars of a morning that felt like a lifetime. For our soldier, reaching the top of the bluff feels surreal. You're alive, but it's not a celebration. You're gasping for air, knees shaking, hands raw and blistered. Around you, comrades are checking weapons, bandaging wounds, trying to see who's still able to fight. The beach, once a sea of chaos, is now a field of survival, and everyone is acutely aware that the next step will be just as dangerous. But look closer. Despite the carnage, there's a spark. The first defensive positions are established, and small groups of soldiers start consolidating control, making sure the ground they've fought so hard to take won't be lost. Engineers continue clearing paths for reinforcements, medics are working tirelessly, and officers are coordinating the next moves inland. The tide is slowly turning, and the hard-won ground at Omaha Beach is finally secure. This moment is critical because it proves something bigger than individual survival. Ordinary men, pushed to their limits, can achieve the impossible. The beach, the obstacles, the cliffs, the relentless enemy fire, none of it could stop them. Minute by minute, step by step, courage and determination turn chaos into progress. Still, the cost cannot be ignored. By noon, the soldiers know the reality. D-Day isn't over. The next hours will bring more battles, more danger, and more sacrifices. But in this instant, at this moment, they can take a breath and acknowledge that their mission, securing this critical section of the Normandy coast, is complete. For our soldier, this is a mix of relief and sorrow. Relief that he survived, that the objective is achieved. Sorrow for the friends who didn't make it. And determination, because the fight to push inland is only beginning. Noon at Omaha Beach isn't a victory in the sense of glory parades or fanfare. It's a victory in survival, in perseverance, and in the relentless human spirit facing the unthinkable. And it sets the stage for everything that comes next. The inland push, the fight for towns, and the liberation of Europe. Because D-Day isn't just a story of minutes or hours. It's a story of men, each minute, each step, fighting for every inch of ground, and every inch counts. So here we are, Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944. By the end of the morning, our soldier, along with countless others, survived one of the most intense, terrifying, and chaotic moments in human history. Take a moment to imagine it all again. The freezing water, the relentless bullets, the explosions, the chaos of men and machines all moving at once, each step a fight for survival. And through it all, ordinary men did something extraordinary. Not because they weren't afraid, not because they were superheroes, but because they kept moving forward. One foot, then the next, 1 minute at a time. That's the lesson here. D-Day wasn't just a military operation, it was a testament to resilience, courage, and teamwork under conditions that most of us can hardly imagine. It's easy to look at history and see strategy, numbers, and outcomes, but the real story is human. Ordinary people facing impossible odds, making split-second decisions, helping each other, and refusing to give up. And that's why the story of Omaha Beach resonates even today, because it's not just about soldiers or battles. It's about what people are capable of when pushed to their limits, when fear is overwhelming, and when hope seems fragile. That courage doesn't just shape history, it shapes our understanding of humanity itself. So when you think about D-Day, remember this. It wasn't just a date, a number, or a line on a map. It was a collection of moments, each second charged with life, fear, and choice, where ordinary men stepped forward, faced the impossible, and made a difference that echoes to this day. And maybe that's the real takeaway. Courage doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes it's just taking the next step when everything tells you not to. Sometimes it's surviving the water, climbing the cliffs, and refusing to stop until the mission and your humanity carry you forward. Omaha Beach reminds us that history isn't only written by victories or plans. It's written by people, real people, 1 minute at a time, facing the unthinkable and still moving forward. And that, more than anything else, is the story of D-Day.